マジかよ。
The episode begins with Hajime Nagumo being thrown into the abyss of the Orcus Labyrinth, filled with monsters stronger than he's ever seen. A bear monstrosity severs his arm and eats it. Hajime escapes by transmuting his way deep into the ground, where, fortunately, he finds a divinity stone that creates a constantly refilling pool of ambrosia healing fluid, allowing him to survive the removal of his arm. In flashbacks, it is revealed Hajime has no warrior skills, his only real skill being transmute, allowing him to manipulate matter. When his class entered the dungeon, they were confronted by a behemoth, and he was deliberately pushed into the abyss by one of his classmates. In the abyss, Hajime starts to break due to intense hunger and begins to hunt the extremely strong wolves by using traps. Upon eating one, the cells of the monster change his DNA, and only the constant healing from the ambrosia saves him. His body transforms, becoming much stronger due to the constant tearing apart of his muscles from the symbiosis of his and the monster's DNA. After his transformation, he hunts further monsters, eating them to raise his levels and gain their physical and magical abilities. He even uses his transmutation skill to create powerful weaponry through trial and error, crafting his first pistol, Donner. Finally, he hunts and eats the bear monstrosity that ate his arm before looking for a way deeper into the abyss. The king is told of Hajime's death, and unwilling to admit to a hero's death, forbids any mention of the incident. Shizuku, Kaori's friend, reveals through flashbacks that the Pope summoned their high school class and their teacher to this world to act as heroes in humanity's war against demons and monsters. She notices her classmate Hayama acting strangely, but does not hear him reassuring himself that no one saw him attacking Hajime. Hajime eventually reaches a giant stone door and defeats the Guardians, retrieving keys from their corpses. Behind the doors, Hajime finds a young girl imprisoned in a crystal, but decides to leave her, believing she must be a monster imprisoned for a reason. She admits she is an immortal vampire princess, but insists she was betrayed by an uncle who wanted her position, but unable to kill her, he sealed her away. Feeling sympathy for being betrayed himself, Hajime frees her. Deciding to abandon her old name, she asks Hajime for a new one, so he names her Yue for the moon, as her golden hair reminds him of moonlight. Hajime and Yue are attacked by a giant scorpion monster. Yue feeds on Hajime's blood, recovering her magic, and they kill the scorpion. While eating the flesh, Hajime tells Yue all vampires were exterminated 300 years ago, making her the last vampire. Yue explains the labyrinths were built by mavericks, powerful magic users who attempted and failed to defeat God, so they each constructed a labyrinth as sanctuaries against God's revenge and may still be alive on the deepest floors. Hajime transmutes the scorpion's shell to create a rifle named Schlagen. Hajime tells Yue how he was betrayed but no longer cares about his classmates, or even revenge. He just wants enough power to return to Japan, and as Yue no longer has a home, he asks her to go with him. Hajime and Yue enter a floor where all monsters are infected and psychically controlled by a plant-like monster. Yue is infected. However, one of the monsters Hajime previously ate makes him immune to the infection, allowing him to kill the monster. Later, Yue strips naked to drink Hajime's blood and seduces him. Several days later, they reach the bottom floor and prepare to face the final boss monster. Hajime and Yue confront the final boss, a giant hydra-like monster with 6 heads, each capable of a different type of magic, and one of which can heal the others. Yue is distracted by the fear-inducing hypnosis of a second head and almost eaten, so Hajime snaps her out of it with a kiss. Hajime succeeds in using Schlagen to destroy 3 heads, including the healing head, and Yue destroys the remaining 3 with lightning. Before they can relax, a surprise 7th head emerges. Hajime is injured protecting Yue, and Schlagen is destroyed. Seeing Hajime unconscious, Yue drags him to safety and tries to attack with his pistol, but is injured. Even unconscious, Hajime hears Yue crying and somehow increases his speed such that he can dodge all attacks. He explodes grenades all around the room, dropping the roof on the head and allowing Yue to kill it for good with lightning. As the final door opens, Hajime passes out from exhaustion. Meanwhile, Aiko Hatayama, Hajime's teacher also summoned as a hero, argues with the Pope, who is insisting they re-enter the labyrinth. The Pope agrees to only send selected students. Hajime awakens in bed with Yue, having lost his right eye, and learns they are in the Maverick's home. They discover the skeleton of the Maverick before a magic circle. Hajime has his memories forcibly examined by a spell which activates a recording the Maverick left behind. The Maverick introduces himself as Oscar Orcus, and for defeating his labyrinth deems Hajime worthy to know the truth of the Maverick God War. Meanwhile, Hajime's classmates enter the labyrinth and defeat the behemoth they believe killed Hajime. Oscar grants Hajime his power and memories before disappearing. Hajime realizes the Mavericks were actually liberators and reveals he has inherited Oscar's ancient creation magic, allowing him to add magical properties to transmuted objects to create artifacts. They bury Oscar and Hajime takes his ring, which controls a portal to the surface. Over 2 months, Hajime takes advantage of Oscar's treasure, library, and workshop to learn as much as he can, crafting weapons and vehicles and outfitting himself with an advanced prosthetic arm and a magical jewel to replace his eye. Yue continues seducing him several times, so he gives her a magical ring and warns her that his plans will eventually make them enemies of the church and their god, Ehit. Shei Haolia, a rabbit girl, waits impatiently at the spot Hajime and Yue are supposed to appear. When they arrive, Hajime and Yue attempt to ignore her as she is quite annoying. Hajime eventually agrees to listen, and she explains her tribe is threatened by monsters, and with her magical ability to predict possible futures, she foresaw Hajime would save them. Hajime agrees in exchange for her guiding them to a great tree mentioned in Oscar's library. Arriving at the tribe's forest, Hajime kills several monsters, using an unfortunate Shei as bait. The rabbit men ask Hajime for training as they are tired of being helpless. Hajime struggles to overcome their natural rabbit-like timidity, so he puts them through a merciless training routine of "kill monsters or I'll kill you instead," turning them into tough monster killers. Shei takes them to the tree, which Hajime determines is the entrance to another labyrinth, but a stone slab nearby with slots for rings like Oscar's makes Hajime realize this labyrinth will only open after he has defeated other labyrinths first. Shei, having fallen in love with Hajime, travels with them, and Yue is forced to let her after Shei technically won a duel by managing to scratch Yue's face. They travel to Risen Gorge, containing the entrance to another labyrinth. They are greeted by the voice of hyperactive Maverick Milady Risen, who built a maze-like labyrinth filled with practical jokes which mostly target Shei. Several of Hajime's classmates decide to abandon the labyrinth and help Aiko on the farms. Hajime and the girls make it to the bottom of the labyrinth to face the boss, Milady herself operating a giant robot. After a lengthy battle, they succeed in cracking her crystal heart. She uses the last of her energy to wish Hajime luck against Ehit, though Hajime claims he has no intention of defeating Ehit. However, upon entering the treasure room, they find the actual real Milady's soul inside a small, cartoonish golem, whom Shei punishes for all the pranks. For completing the labyrinth, she gives Hajime her ring. She then expels them from the labyrinth through a whirlpool, though Shei drowns as she cannot swim. Hajime brings her back with CPR, though she wakes up and seizes the chance to violently kiss him. Tired, they find an inn, where Shei loudly insists Hajime spend the night taking her virginity. Now publicly humiliated, Hajime punishes Shei yet again. Hajime is asked by the Adventurers Guild to find missing adventurers, including a noble's son. They travel to a nearby farming village, unaware the farms are being visited by Aiko and several classmates. Hajime tries to avoid them, but they hear Shay calling him by name. Aiko tearfully confronts him about where he has been, but he ignores her. They are confronted by an arrogant Templar knight who insults Shay, so Hajime severely injures him. His classmates are shocked and scared by his new, merciless personality. Later, Hajime visits Aiko alone to tell her the truth about the war against the demons. Centuries ago, several humans discovered the truth. The god Ahit was not on their side. He was merely controlling the war for his own amusement. These humans became the liberators to free mortals from Ahit's tyranny. Unfortunately, Ahit, through the church, had them labeled heretics and renamed mavericks. The remaining liberators built the labyrinths to keep their ancient magic safe until someone capable of defeating Ahit came along to claim their powers. Before leaving, he also tells her in no uncertain terms that one of his classmates tried to murder him. The next morning, Aiko and the students stubbornly insist on helping them search the mountains for the adventurers, as Aiko wants to ask more questions about the liberators. Once in the mountains, Hajime uses transmuted drones connected to his jewel eye to search for the adventurers. They find the noble's son, Will, the only survivor who reveals they were attacked by an army of monsters and a black dragon. While returning, they are attacked by the dragon. Hajime succeeds in knocking it from the sky and attempts to pierce its armor with his weapon, the pile bunker. The dragon almost escapes until Shay knocks it out with Drucken. Deciding to forego piercing the armor, Hajime sadistically shoves the stake into its only unarmored area, the anus. However, the pain causes the dragon to reveal she is a female dragonborn, capable of taking a human form, and begs him to remove the stake in exchange for everything she knows. She admits she was magically forced by someone to attack Will and his friends, and as atonement, offers to help them stop that person. Hajime decides to kill her anyway, but Yue convinces him to spare her. He removes the stake and the dragon transforms into a young woman named Tio, a shameless masochist who admits she enjoyed the stake just a little. Tio reveals the person, whoever he is, has an army of 60,000 monsters and is planning to attack the farming village. Hajime is convinced to fight when Aiko asks him to. He erects barricades around the village while avoiding the amorous intentions of Tio, who finds his mixture of neglect and verbal abuse exciting. Hajime decides to dedicate their victory to Aiko, goddess of plenty. Embarrassing her, then proceeds to massacre the monster army with transmuted miniguns and rocket launchers. With his ammunition depleted and Yue and Tio out of magic, Hajime and Shay rush to capture the mysterious robed commander as the monsters retreat. Hajime realizes the commander is the missing Shimizu. Shimizu admits he was disappointed not to be the only summoned hero, especially as he paled in comparison to his more powerful classmates, so he signed a contract with a demon, power in exchange for killing Aiko. He scratches Aiko with a poisonous needle, but is shot from behind by a monster sniper. Hajime shoots the sniper and heals Aiko with ambrosia via a kiss. As Shimizu lies dying, he offers loyalty to Hajime, who spots the lie in his eyes and mercilessly executes him, devastating Aiko. As they leave, Yue correctly guesses the sniper was aiming at Aiko, so Hajime finished killing Shimizu so Aiko would blame him and not herself, enabling her to recover much quicker psychologically. A slavery gang captures a rare mermaid child named Miu and decide to sell her. Hajime returns Will to his father and collects his fee. Deciding they need a break, they explore the city as tourists. At an aquarium, they meet a sentient talking fish and decide to free him. As thanks, he passes on a rumor of a captured mermaid child. Deciding this bothers him, Hajime and Shay wander the city until he senses the child in the sewers underground and rescues her. Hajime and Shay keep Miu safe, but struggle with what to do next. Elsewhere, Yue and Tio discuss sharing Hajime between them. Hajime decides to give Miu to the city guards, despite her begging to stay with Hajime. After handing a tearful Miu over, the guardhouse is attacked and Miu kidnapped again. Enraged, Hajime begins systematically executing known associates of the slavers looking for the upcoming auction, saving many children along the way. Locating the auction in a noble's mansion, Hajime executes the boss, rescues Miu, and blows up the mansion along with the auction's customers. Miu decides to start calling an uncomfortable Hajime Papa, which causes Yue, Shay, and Tio to demand Hajime get them all pregnant with his children. Despite his unease, Hajime takes to parenting Miu quite well. They return to the city where Hajime and the other heroes were summoned. While visiting the Adventurers Guild, Hajime meets a panicked Endu, one of his classmates, who warns them Catleya the demon set a trap in the labyrinth for the rest of the class. The class are overwhelmed by Catleya's summoned monsters, unable to even get close to Catleya to try killing her. Hajime is indifferent until Endu upsets Miu and he becomes downright reluctant to help at all. A student, Suzu, is injured, causing most of the class to flee. Hayama and Nakamura both suggest signing contracts with the demon to survive. Kuki, the main hero who refuses to back down, gets close to Catleya, but hesitates after she drops a locket with a picture of her lover, realizing she has a life outside the war as well. While hesitating, he is seriously injured. With support from the girls, Hajime decides to save his class, reasoning only one of them tried to kill him, meaning most of them are innocent. Shizuku's original sword is broken during the fight, so she prepares to die alongside Kaori. However, they are saved at the last second by Hajime having created a shortcut using his pile bunker to blast through the upper floors. Everyone is shocked to learn Hajime is still alive. Hajime sees through Catleya's magic and kills all her monsters. Hayama is terrified at Hajime's return, fearing he will be discovered as his attempted murderer. Hajime transmutes Shizuku a new, indestructible sword. Miu calls Hajime Papa, confusing everyone and upsetting Kaori. Catleya attempts to flee, but is caught by Hajime, who tortures her for information. Hajime learns a powerful demon has cleared one of the labyrinths and is using its ancient magic to create a monster army. Catleya warns him her lover will kill him in revenge, but Hajime kills her anyway. In the aftermath, Kuki is outraged. Hajime executed the helpless Catleya, so Hajime berates him in return for being too weak to do what is necessary, warning Kuki if he or any of his classmates try to stop him, he will kill them too. Kaori confesses she loves Hajime, but he turns her down as he already loves Yue. Kaori insists on joining his team anyway to compete with Yue. Shizuku tries to return the sword he gave her, but he tells her to keep it, though it is suggested she may be developing a crush on him. As they leave in Hajime's transmuted SUV, Kaori is furious to discover she must share the backseat with Shay and Tio, while Yue automatically gets the passenger seat beside Hajime. Hajime remains determined to make it back to Japan no matter who he has to kill, even God himself. Kuki returns with the others to the castle, disheartened by the fact that Kaori had not only confessed her love for Hajime, but had also left the group to be with him. Meanwhile, Hajime's group travels the Gruen Desert, where they are attacked by dozens of sandworms. After defeating the monsters, they rescue a noble by the name of Bees Fjord Zengen, the son of the Duke of Ankaji. Bees is afflicted with a strange condition that overloads his body with mana and which will eventually kill him. He reveals that Ankaji is in a dire situation, with its water supply poisoned or tainted, such that the inhabitants have begun to exhibit symptoms of the same mana overload ailment afflicting bees. Hajime and the girls soon decide to help the Anjaki residents. Meanwhile, General Freed of the demon army is informed first of Catleya's death at Hajime's hand, then of the destruction of the monster army, also at Hajime's hand. Freed begins making preparations for facing Hajime in battle and killing him. Hajime's party arrives at Ankaji, where they provide aid to the citizens afflicted by the curse and destroy the monster responsible. While Kaori stays behind to treat the sick with Miu, Hajime and the rest of the party infiltrate the Gruen volcano, the site of the third labyrinth. The group push forward through great rivers of molten lava all the way to the core, which they discover is guarded by 100 monsters. Hajime and the girls readily attack the monsters guarding the core, but just as they slay the last of them, a massive beam of light strikes Hajime. Desperately concerned for his safety, they immediately converge to protect him, then prepare to ferociously retaliate. Hajime is wounded by Fried's surprise attack, but despite having the advantage, the enemy fails to defeat Hajime's party in combat. As a last resort, Fried destroys the controls that keep the volcano from erupting and traps Hajime and the others inside so that the eruption will kill them. Before the volcano is sealed, Hajime instructs Tio to quickly escape to rejoin Kaori and Miu in Ankaji, while he and the others look for another exit. Meanwhile, at the palace, Shizuku is informed by Princess Liliana that the king intends to brand Hajime as a heretic for his defiance. Daisuke Hiyama, the student who unbeknownst to the others had intentionally targeted Hajime, is increasingly despondent since Kaori has joined Hajime after confessing her love to him. Meanwhile, another classmate, whose identity is a mystery, reveals that they've known all along that Daisuke had intentionally tried to kill Hajime at Orcus. This mystery person approaches Daisuke, proposing an alliance while subtly hinting that he has no choice but to accept. Having barely escaped from her pursuers, Tio returns to Ankaji and is treated by Kaori and Miu, while Hajime, Yue, and Shea reach the core of the labyrinth and seize its power before escaping in a submarine created by Hajime. Sometime later, the party regroups in the middle of the ocean and arrives at the sea city of Erison, home to the merfolk, where Miu reunites with her mother. Meanwhile, Shizuku consults with Aiko and learns that Hajime was officially branded as a heretic by the church for refusing to comply with their orders. Aiko also reveals that both the king and the nobles are behaving strangely, and that according to Hajime, they can trust neither the church nor the god Ehit, as he knows his true objective. The party departs Erison to explore the underwater ruins of Melusine, the site of the fourth labyrinth. As they fight their way inside the ruins, they encounter a powerful monster. As the group retreats, Hajime and Kaori become separated from the others. The pair continues fighting the illusory foes of the labyrinth together until finally they find time to rest and confer about their circumstances. Hajime reprimands Kaori for continuing to compare herself and feel inferior to Yue, who stood beside Hajime when he was most in need of someone, but reiterates that Yue is the one he loves and suggests that Kaori leave the party if she can't accept that. Meanwhile, back at the castle, Aiko is kidnapped by a nun as Liliana is shown watching the scene from afar. Hajime and Kaori keep exploring the dungeon together until they watch a scene from the past where a peace treaty between the races is broken by Ehit's intervention. As they proceed, a spirit possesses Kaori and attempts to force Hajime to submit, but he refuses and proceeds to torture it with magic bullets instead unless it leaves Kaori's body, until Kaori exorcises it from within using her powers. After she is freed, Kaori kisses Hajime and affirms that she still loves him and wants to be by his side, despite his feelings for Yue. The two then reach the core of the labyrinth, where they reunite with the others. The monster who previously attacked the party returns to fight, but is destroyed by Hajime with help from the same sentient fish Hajime and Shea freed on another occasion. Meanwhile, the rest of the students are worried about Aiko's disappearance, unaware that she is being held captive at the Divine Mountain. Hajime and the girls spend some days at Erison, with Hajime reluctant about parting ways with Miu. Once her mother reassures Hajime that she will be fine with his departure, Hajime promises to Miu that he will take her to visit Earth once he finds a way back there. As the party departs to continue their journey, Liliana flees from the castle, certain that she can't trust anyone there, and the Demon Lord's forces prepare a large-scale attack on the humans. Meanwhile, Commander Meld considers sending a letter to Hajime to ask for his help when Daisuke appears to talk to him. One of Meld's subordinates is hypnotized and attempts to kill him, and just when Meld protects Daisuke from the attacker, Daisuke takes the opportunity to stab him. Meld escapes from his attackers, but is intercepted and killed by the Apostle Noint. Meanwhile, Hajime's party rescues some travelers from a group of bandits and reunites with Liliana, who reveals that she ran away from the castle to look for a way to rescue Aiko, who is being held at the Divine Mountain, which is also the site of the fifth labyrinth. Hajime rescues Aiko from prison, but they are attacked by Noint, while an army of 100,000 monsters led by Fried and his subordinates approach the capital. Weakened by the priest's magic and protecting Aiko from harm, Hajime is at a disadvantage fighting Noint. Yue and Shay confront and defeat Fried and his soldiers, forcing him to flee, while Kaori and Liliana search for the rest of Hajime's classmates. Tio rendezvous with Hajime, who entrusts Aiko to her care and begins his counterattack. Having nothing left to hold him back, Hajime fights Noint and defeats her after a costly battle. Tio and Aiko combine their powers to launch an attack on the temple, but end up destroying it completely while killing all the priests. Hajime joins the duo, and the spirit of one of the liberators guide them to the core of the labyrinth, where they claim their rewards. Elsewhere, the students learn about the monster invasion and regroup with the knights by Eri's suggestion, but Eri betrays her classmates and subdues them with help from the knights under her control. Eri reveals that she sided with the demons and used her necromancy to have the knights killed and turned into undead under her control. She also assumes that her main objective is to turn Kuki, with whom she is in love, into an undead as well, so she can have him all to herself. Kaori and Liliana arrive to help, and Kaori uses her powers to heal the rest of the classmates, who begin to fight back. However, Daisuke mortally wounds Kaori, and Eri plans to turn her into an undead so he can have her by his side. In a last second, Hajime appears and slays all of the possessed knights using his minigun. Eri orders Meld, now an undead, to kill Hajime. However, mustering his last bit of soul, he begs Hajime to end his misery, to which he obliges without question. Hajime is about to kill Eri when Daisuke attacks him, resulting in the latter brutally beaten to near death and thrown into the outskirts of the arena and is left for dead as the monsters devour him. Fried arrives and challenges Hajime to defeat the thousands of monsters invading the city, which he easily does with a space weapon developed by him. Eri takes the opportunity to escape with Fried, and Hajime's party take Kaori's body, having a plan in mind to fully resurrect her. Hajime and the others manage to preserve Kaori's soul, but by her request, they implant it on Noint's restored body so that she can increase her combat abilities while having her original body preserved for when they return to Japan. Hajime reveals to the other students Ehit's true intentions, and Kuki remarks that they should fight him to save the world, but Hajime insists that they should focus on returning to their own world instead. Despite that, the students decide to join forces with Hajime and split into two groups, one accompanying Hajime's party to the next labyrinth in order to get stronger, and another escorting Liliana to meet the Emperor in the capital in their effort to stop Ehit's plans. This episode sets when Miu was still in the group. While Kaori heals some travelers, Shay, Tio, and Miu ask Yue to teach them magic. Hajime warns them not to and is proven right because Yue's explanations are too vague and make no sense. However, Kaori joins the lesson and instantly learns a force field spell to everyone's surprise. They stop in a town and, by Miu's suggestion, swap clothes to see how it is like. Miu wears Yue's, Yue wears Tio's, Tio wears Miu's, Shay wears Kaori's, and Kaori wears Shay's. Hajime is impressed, but Kaori is embarrassed by Shay's revealing outfit. After switching back and going back on the road, Yue is bothered that Miu always calls her Big Sister instead of Mama. Miu assures her that she loves her and pats her head, causing Yue to regress to an infantile state and almost making Hajime lose control of the vehicle due to how cute they look.